New data received.
Hello? I hope this broadcast is going out, and that it finds all wastelanders in good health. Professor Taylor here, out of the bunker and searching the mean streets of Chico for caps and snacks. Congratulations to everyone for making it to week 12 of the course. It's been a massive 5 weeks since I had the pleasure of having everyone in my classroom, and we are now 3/4 of the way through the semester and that much closer to summer. I encourage everyone to ensure they stay hydrated and healthy as things start to heat up.
Today's lecture will be on visual continuity and composition while storyboarding for film. First, I wanted to identify beatboards and give you a brief outline of their purpose and how they differ from storyboards. They are a great way to gather and convey most distinct parts of a broad story idea in a shorter amount of shots. Each single image represents a sizable scene or aspect of the story without fleshing out the whole scene in any detail. If you think of a children's book and how large images can represent whole sections of the story, then you'll have an idea on how beatboards are utilized for all types of initial story visualization. It is perfect for a short pitch, as you can get your general idea across without going into real depth. Looking at the images on the screen, we can see here that we have a child who's being bullied. The child gains the ability to turn into a monster, and he uses that ability to scare the bullies. Now, this is an overly brief view of a story, but I'm sure you get the idea on how beatboards can be used to synopsize a larger story. The rule of thirds is an important concept concerning the composition of elements of your shot. It involves dividing up your image using 2 horizontal and 2 vertical lines as shown on screen. You then work to position the most important elements of your scene along those lines, or at the points where these lines intersect. Utilizing the rule of thirds means the subject isn't centered in the image. Instead, the main focal point is off to one of the sides. Using the rule of thirds draws the viewer's eye into and around the composition, as opposed to focusing the eye on a single point of interest. Here we can see the rule of thirds applied to a sequence of shots. We can see both the main characters remain squarely along the guidelines, with heads centered on the same points even when the camera shifts from close mid shots to over-the-shoulder shots. This use of the rule of thirds keeps the audience's understanding of what is happening to who, even with shots in quick sequence, to a solid application of the rule of thirds, as well as screen direction, which we will discuss in a moment. With the focal point being the aspect of the scene that we want the audience to focus on, this is usually what we bear in mind with the utilization of the rule of thirds and how we place our point of interest. In a close-up shot, it's not uncommon for this to be the eye. A dead center shot uses just 2 lines, one horizontal and one vertical, for a video game crosshair style mid-frame. A dead center focal point is commonly used for cut-in shots, as it can be considered a blunt force approach to cinematography, but is an effective way to ensure the audience sees what is quickly occurring, telling them to essentially look at this. With these shots, it's common for the focal aspect to be just above or just below the center point. Above center can be used to maximize the subject on screen, and below to frame the subject within a location. Those of you who are partial to a little bit of anime may notice that this shot is not uncommon, utilized as a means of managing a lot of rapid on-screen changes to what is occurring. Some masters of cinema have been known to heavily use this approach and achieve strong results, but it is from a position of greater understanding of visual composition and how to break the rules effectively. Mad Max Road Warrior is perhaps one of my favorite examples of how this rule can be broken to strong effect, with this approach commonly known as central frame editing or central frame style. Whatever angle the camera frames your subjects, a sense of consistency is important in the placement of your subjects to create what is known as screen direction. Whenever you change the direction of characters on screen, you pull a viewer from the natural flow of dialogue and action, forcing their minds to reassess who is situated where before they are able to settle back into the flow of the scene. On screen here we have 2 selections that outline how this is done. Feel free to take a moment and appreciate how screen direction is maintained, even with some dynamic shots. Looking at the images on the left, the male is always on the left side of the screen looking right, and the female is always on the right side of the screen looking left. When this is flipped, the jarring visual has broken what is called the 180-degree rule. Kubrick used this frequently during The Shining to create a sense of unease and visual discomfort while viewing the film. So if broken, it should be broken purposefully. As with any rule, other than submitting work on time, of course, that rule should never be broken. With that in mind, in this left sequence we can have the disgruntled female changing screen direction by moving off screen to the left. In this way, we create a modicum of discomfort for the viewer that mirrors the discomfort of the characters. As a storyboard artist, you will be faced with many difficult angles, often related to challenging environments such as confined spaces. The goal remains to find ways to maintain visual comfort for the audience. During a driving scene, the driver will be constantly shifting the direction of their head to assess the road and surroundings, looking ahead, in mirrors, or twisting over their shoulder. This makes it harder to maintain clarity and scene consistency, but effort should always be taken to maintain the screen side for each character with angled shots. Here, we see difficult examples of maintaining screen direction during car shots, deftly done with the angling of the camera in these side shots pictured. Such shots will see certain rules broken, such as backseat shots switching character screen direction, and with the background moving left in one shot and right on the other. But as people generally understand how cars work, this creates little to no issues. When working to develop a sense of motion within your scenes, you need to assess how motion will be compositionally conveyed through your sequence of shots, as well as with the single shot. Across the top of the screen, we see a character at the bottom of stairs, with him positioned on the right, looking left and shining his light up and left. It is clear which direction he is going. This is known as a leading space. The subsequent shot has the character at the top of the stairs, with leading space depicting the character going right. But with this composition, we have lost a sense of forward momentum by switching screen direction from one shot to the next. Changing the subsequent shot to an OTS, or in this case an OTB, maintains the character's placement in the right of the frame and a sense of forward motion for the character and audience with the light and space. To reiterate, keeping the character in the same area of the shot, particularly with intermittent shots of the subject, is a great way of maintaining visual consistency. As we advance into the thumbnail sketch phase, it's helpful to ensure clear horizon lines are present when presenting frames. A simple horizon line is a good way to provide rudimentary visual context to your camera angles. Utilizing clear point perspective is a great way of achieving this and will be discussed in more depth in future weeks to give the subject a little more clarity. As previously directed, on Blackboard, Resources, Storyboarding, we have a template for your storyboards to be used in Photoshop. That said, there are a lot of great resources online for storyboard templates, and you're welcome to utilize them if they're of a high quality and resolution. If in doubt, please reach out to me for confirmation. A lot of artists draw their own frames, as this allows for additional creativity and freedom in the conveyance of action and dynamism that may occasionally be better achieved outside of single, separate frame sequence templates. This would be decided upon in advance during the sketch phase, and you are welcome to make edits to the template provided to achieve specific goals. Directional arrows are a great way of making motion explicitly clear within your frames. As a storyboard artist, you have to assume that not everyone you work with will have seen or work with a storyboard or have a strong sense of visual understanding. When communicating with non-visual thinkers, arrows are a lifesaver in the conveyance of vital frame information. Arrows work best when drawn in 3D, as they can convey a sense of depth to the direction shown. 2D arrows should only be used when the action is clear enough to allow them to function effectively. If you are researching storyboards online, you may see those that do utilize color. Oftentimes, red arrows are used to depict action, such as movement of characters, while blue arrows depict the movement of the camera, or vice versa. As this requires an additional layer of explanation for the interpretation of the colors, we won't be utilizing colored arrows in our assignment. Generally, simple black and white arrows with self-evident correlation between arrow and subject are a solid, universal approach to storyboarding arrows. Any additional details or explanations that are required should simply be added to the panel's notes. Comic books are a fine example of how visual flow has been understood and utilized to specific effect. The difference being this is achieved over a collection of panels all at once, as opposed to one frame to the next. Additional considerations here include the direction of the viewer's eye, flowing from action to action across and down the page, while maintaining compositionally interesting shots. While watching films or reading over your favorite comic books, I encourage you to consider how the rules discussed today have been utilized to successful effect or simply broken. Now that is what I call some exceptional note-taking, team. Good job. Now, with your notes in hand, I'd like you all to continue along to the next video for today's class. That is going to be a video on the Week 12 task guide. And in that video, I'm going to direct you to some resources that are going to make your current assignment a lot easier. I'd also ask that you reread the brief if you haven't already. That is going to give you a lot of pertinent information, including the 10-point rubric by which you will be graded. If after reading the rubric and the brief and watching both videos you still have questions, then please reach out to me on the Discord channel, the CAGD 117 virtual classroom. Drop me an email if you have any private questions that you would like to discuss at more length. As always, I'm available during the established classroom hours, but you can also catch me online intermittently throughout the day on the Discord chat. As I drop in there day and night, you shouldn't have to wait too long for a response. We have a fantastic cohort who have shown exemplary conduct over these last few weeks. Please continue to engage with the online Discord channel, help out your peers, and let's get through these challenges together. From the bunker, this has been Professor Kevin Taylor. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and stay at least 6 feet away from me. If you're within 6 feet of me, then please get out of my house. I have nothing for you to take.